Feeding your child their first food is an important and an exciting milestone. You are introducing your child to a whole world of flavors and textures, but it can also be a little daunting as it comes with a lot of questions. Hi, I'm Dr. Kavya, and today we're going to talk about complementary feeding or weaning food. The first 1,000 days of life, that is the 270 days that your baby spends inside the uterus, and the first 2 years after birth is the most critical period for nutrition. Adequate nutrition during this period is fundamental to the development of your child's full potential. So we're going to take a step-by-step approach to this nutritional journey, starting with weaning foods. First biggest question is when to start weaning. Your baby is physically ready to take his or her first food after 4 months of life. However, the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the Indian Academy of Pediatrics recommend exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Now, there are two important reasons for this recommendation. First, breast milk provides all the essential nutrition that the baby requires during the first 6 months of life. Any food that is introduced before 6 months is going to replace breast milk. That is, whatever energy that the child will derive from other foods that you introduce would have otherwise been derived from breast milk itself. So the total amount of energy that the baby gets will remain the same, only where it gets this energy from that will get altered. Breast milk, in addition to providing calories and nutrition, also provides antibacterial immunological benefits that help the baby fight infections. So when you start weaning foods before 6 months, you're essentially replacing the most nutritious and the beneficial food the baby is already receiving, that is the breast milk. Which is probably why studies have shown that growth of babies who have started taking weaning foods from 4 months onwards as compared to those starting at 6 months is not that different, even when you give the most nutritious and safe food. After 6 months of age, however, it becomes increasingly difficult for the baby to meet their nutritional needs from breast milk alone, which would be the ideal time to introduce weaning foods. Apart from this, there is also the added risk of exposure to foodborne pathogens. In places where sanitation is very poor, introducing complementary food before 6 months will only increase the risk of exposure to foodborne pathogens, which the baby is not yet equipped to fight. If you're still having a difficult time deciding when to start feeding them, your baby will show you the signs that he is ready for solids. So look for signs that your baby is ready. For example, do you nurse at least 8 to 10 times a day and yet your baby is crying for more feeds? Or if you're giving formula of about 900 ml, yet your baby is still crying for more feeds? Is your baby sitting up and able to control his or her head? Has your baby started teething? Does he watch you eat and make chewing motions? Or simple rule of thumb that is easy to gauge is when your baby's weight has reached approximately twice his or her birth weight. Keeping all this in mind, I would personally recommend starting weaning by 5.5 months. So when the breastfeeding is insufficient, you would have established an additional source of nutrition by 6 months of age. The second question most often I get asked is, should you stop or gradually wean off of breastfeeding once you have started complementary food? The answer is absolutely not. Continue frequent on-demand breastfeeding at least up to 2 years of age, and if you desire, you can even go beyond 2 years. This is because breastfeeding continues to make an important nutritional contribution well beyond the first year of life, where the child receives about 35 to 40% of the total energy requirement. Research has also shown that longer duration of breastfeeding can reduce risk of childhood chronic illnesses, boost immunity, and decrease your baby's risk for ear infections, allergies, asthma, diabetes, obesity, and it can also improve cognitive outcomes. Before we go into what you can feed your baby, it is also important to know how to prepare and store food. Safe food preparation and storage of the food that you prepare is extremely important. Practice good hygiene and proper food handling. Always wash your hands thoroughly with soap before preparing the food. Also make sure you wash your child's hands before feeding. Prepare food just before feeding. Avoid feeding bottles unless you're properly equipped on how to sterilize them. Let's talk about food consistency. Start with soup-like consistency. You can gradually increase it to paste-like or semi-solid lumpy food by the end of first year. Your child should be able to chew food and eat small pieces of soft fruits and vegetables by their first birthday. The most common problem that I have seen is that parents continue to spoon feed soft mashed food even until 2 years of age, and the child does not learn chewing motions. A good time to introduce semi-solid foods is by 9 months of age, when the child starts learning these chewing movements. Don't worry that your baby does not have teeth yet, because he does not require teeth. He can successfully chew food with his gums alone. If you miss this window of 9 to 12 months to introduce solids, child may have feeding difficulties in future, may also take a lot of time to learn chewing, and may continue to prefer mashed food. So make sure you gradually increase the food consistency and introduce solid foods by about 9 months of age. This can be done by introducing finger foods. We will talk about finger foods more in detail in my next video, but by 12 months, most children can eat the same type of food as consumed by the rest of the family. Amount of complementary food needed. Remember that the quantity does not matter, and it varies from child to child depending on the energy density of the food. Also, it depends greatly on how much breast milk your child consumes. Start with small amounts of food and increase the quantity as the child gets older while maintaining frequent breastfeeding. As a rough guide, start with 2 to 3 tablespoons of puree initially. Gradually increase the quantity weekly to about half a cup by 8 months of age, and 3/4 to 1 cup, which is 250 ml, by a year. Just remember that quantity does not matter. What you should know more importantly is signs to pick up that your child is full, like spitting food, refusing to open their mouth, pushing the spoon away, turning away from the food, crying excessively. If your child does not eat suggested quantity of food, then you can always make energy dense food by adding ghee or clarified butter or vegetable oils. This ensures that the baby gets the required energy even with small quantity of food. Never force your child to eat. This will only make them develop unhealthy relationship with food, which can develop as eating disorders later in life. When it comes to how many times you need to feed your child, start with once a day, preferably in the afternoon at around 1 p.m. initially. Then you can gradually increase this frequency to 2 to 3 times a day by 8 months and 3 to 4 times a day by 1 year of age, with 1 or 2 nutritious snacks in between. What specific foods that you can start with, what are the combination of foods that is most nutritious, specific food recipes, and my holy grail recipe for perfect weaning food. That's all coming up in my future videos. So stay tuned and please subscribe and click on the bell icon because you don't want to miss those videos. Also, share with people that you think this video might help. If you have any questions regarding weaning foods or even otherwise, definitely comment below. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. Maybe I can even do a Q&A session at the end of this video series. So take care, enjoy parenting, enjoy motherhood.